All right, here's tip number one. Before combat in a role-playing game, don't do this. And I've been guilty of it myself, and I always, when I'm in the middle of doing it, I catch myself and say, oh crap, I just did what I'm always trying to tell other people not to do. So when you're about to have a combat, describe everything. What's coming at them, what the enemies are, where they're at, the location of stuff. Describe everything. Do not touch miniatures or one of these. Don't touch it. Don't start writing down on it first. As a player, that just completely takes the wind out of my sails when all of a sudden I see the DM fire this thing up, start drawing on it, and hey, go ahead and place yourself. Where are you at in your little campfire? Before they've even described anything that's going on. It's a huge, huge no-no in my opinion. Describe stuff. Let it play out like a movie or a book. Just describe stuff that's happening. And allow for you to take a little bit of control of your characters, because you're going to have some players that don't like that. But place them where you want them to be. When they're walking, if they're traveling, they're not robots, unless they are robots, of course. And they might have a marching order, which a marching order is great to have. That way you get rid of a lot of those issues about where people are. But if they don't have a marching order, or they've been lax at kind of how they are, say, well, you're here and you're there in the marching order, or you've kind of moved around there, because you're always in flux. You're always kind of in movement whenever you're setting up camp or going through a town. And it's not this regimented thing that's going to happen all the time. So allow you to kind of create the scene, describe it to them, and then once they know that the fight's about to happen, pop this out. It's gonna slow it down just a little bit for you to get this ready, but you've already created that kind of excitement that's about to happen. Plus, you can spring stuff on them very quickly. If you start throwing this thing out and start drawing on it, they're going to know that anything that's going to surprise them, be it as a character or as a player, you've killed it. You've killed the suspense of it. So that's one of my first tips: is don't touch this thing until you've described the what's happening. You describe the ambush or whatever's going to go on, and then you start drawing on this. Sometimes you just get into a groove and this thing comes out, and place yourself where you're at. Don't do that. Okay. And again, these, you might going to disagree with some of these. Some of these you've probably heard from other videos. I'm certain there's hundreds of videos on YouTube about tips for running games, but these are just some of the ones that I've seen. They may be repeats, but oh well. So a lot of running a role-playing game is going to be obviously in your mind and in your players' minds. So I have played for about 30 years, and I come across new players that want to run stuff, and of course I encourage that, and they start to run stuff, and then they'll come back to me with some of maybe how did that go, or I botched that, or that didn't go as well. And I want to tell them now their expectations are set way too high, I think, for a lot of people when they start role playing. This is a hobby, and this is you're in a director's chair that's going to take years of playing, years of being comfortable with not only yourself, but the games that you're playing, the people, how you interact with the crowd, how you speak. And really, it's a self-esteem thing. And it's not going to be something, if somebody has that ability to just all of a sudden start running a role-playing game and just be a thespian, like be straight out of the William Shakespeare play, like you can just ramble off all these amazing things, then more power to you. But from what I've seen, the majority of people don't have that skill, but they want to be comfortable in the game, and that's just something that's going to take time and doing it over and over and over again. Play, play, play. Run the games, run the games, run the games. Get yourself into that mindset. You are in control of the table. Don't worry if something feels awkward, okay? If somebody uses a voice, or you use a voice, and maybe it doesn't hit the way you wanted it to, using a voice is completely optional if you want to practice accents and stuff. I would encourage practicing accents. When you're in the shower, it's loud, just start trying to do different accents. I know it might be goofy, you might feel silly if you're driving. Try to do different accents. It's going to help. It's going to improve your game if you like a more immersive game. If you like that, if you don't like doing different accents and voices, then don't worry about it. Obviously, I do believe that it brings a lot to the game, where a dungeon master, game master can can very well enhance the game with using a voice or an accent. And it just comes with self-esteem and not worrying about something being awkward. That's one of the things that I feel, you'll feel that in a game a lot, is that awkwardness. Someone tries to use a voice, someone tries to talk in their character and they stutter, they pause, they don't know exactly what to say. That's going to happen for years. Just let it happen. And if you're running a game, just go with the flow. And one thing that I do is, because I'm in the director's chair pretty much, and I'm trying to create this story for them, what I do is I just kind of look off into a different direction, or I have to look at somebody if that's going to freak me out, or they're going to make goofy faces or start smiling or laugh. You know how your players start doing. So just kind of look off and then just kind of describe, just kind of think about, like you're going to describe a picture of something that you've seen, maybe a great piece of art, fantasy art or something. Describe the sounds of the city, of the town, the village, the marketplace, the different types of people that are around, maybe a far off sound of a dog or something like that. Now, this is all, of course, going to bank on the part of you having the time to do this, and hopefully you've got a good group of people and you've got time to really sit here and describe some stuff. It doesn't have to be long. You don't have to go into some big long spiel about how the description of the place is, but maybe get smells from the marketplace, maybe the smell of bread coming from the marketplace, a tavern, spilt wine or beer. You can feel kind of the vibrations in the floor. If there's music being played, people are stomping their feet. Try to really get that descriptive flow going, and that's just something that's just going to take time. It's going to take time. Again, I'm going to say this a bunch. Your self-esteem, how good you feel that you're able to do this, and just know that you are doing this for the group. You are doing this for your players. If they don't like it, then that's just tough. If there's something that they don't like that you've tried to maybe describe a little bit more, or put a little bit more effort into, you're the one doing the effort. They're the ones that's sitting down that's ready to be entertained, okay? And today's mentality is a lot of entertain me. It's not so much of, that this is a problem that a lot of players have. I have that as well as a player sometimes. It comes down to the fact that entertainment now has changed so much, and how quickly we can be entertained by it. We have phones in our pockets that can do movies, games, they can talk to people. We have such a quick way to just consume type of entertainment. A lot of players now are wanting that. So if you've got a group that it's not so, entertain me, I sit down, you're gonna give me the best game ever. That's not gonna happen. Okay. It shouldn't happen, and it's selfish of them to think that. But that it's a difficult hurdle nowadays. So you're in the chair, you're confident. Listen to some music before the game starts. I tell you to go listen to the Anvil of Crom from the Conan soundtrack, Conan the Barbarian. If you want to do a fantasy game, like, get yourself in that mindset and realize that you're in control, and don't worry if it gets awkward. Don't worry if maybe somebody snickers at something you do. Just keep going. I've run games for many, many strangers, pure strangers at conventions, and I just do it exactly the way I always do. I describe as much as I can. I get involved in it. I try to do voices when I can. And like I said, if the voice doesn't hit, who cares? You are trying. You are trying to give them that experience. And that's probably one of the best things I can tell you. One of the other things to do, especially if you're new, is don't start off with some big adventure. Don't start off with some big campaign. Just try to do a small encounter somewhere. Just have the players traveling through the forest, have them get attacked. Maybe there's a cart overturned. Somebody's been kidnapped by goblins. You go to the goblin lair. That's all you need for that first session. Okay? Let you get used to what's going on. Okay? Let you get a little bit more comfortable. Really that's going to be a big help. And I'll always say this too. You don't have to cram before you don't have to, I've got to prepare for days before this adventure. Well, if you're doing a big campaign or big setting or something, or a big adventure that has a lot of moving parts, then sure, I understand that. But if you're learning to play, start off slow, start off small, and just say, hey, I'm just going to sit here for a second. I'm going to describe stuff, and it's not going to be this big layered thing. It's not going to be this big plot that they have to figure out. Let me get comfortable. Let's see how they get comfortable to the game. And that way we can kind of build some momentum to start to get to those other things. That's going to be one of the big things, is just starting slow and working up. Another thing to do, especially if you've been playing for a while, is you're going to have to, if you've been playing for a long time, you're going to have to adjust to, obviously, your game being more modernized with iPads. People might be looking at a phone for something, and of course some people might be trying to play a game or talk on Facebook. That's going to be complicated. That's going to be a difficult situation. You're going to have to deal with that accordingly. I mean, you've got friends. Maybe they're strangers. If they're strangers, I'd be more likely to be like, hey, at a convention, like, this is everybody's time. Don't interrupt. Don't do this. You're going to have to be just a little bit of a hard ass, and or your game will get away from you. Especially now when so many things can distract the players. That's going to be a tough thing for any person that's running a role-playing game. But yeah, there's many more tips, and I'm certain there's lots of videos out there, like I said. But don't do this, okay? Don't do that. That's just going to kill your momentum. Be confident in yourself. You're doing this for your players and yourself. And another thing is, play games with people that want to play the game with you. That same game. They just don't want to be entertained. They want to play that game. They want to be involved in that game. If you have players that just show up to be entertained, you're setting yourself up for a rough night, because you may want to get something out of it of a different way. You might want to get deep into the setting, deep into the campaign, deep into the characters, and they just want to kill stuff. Well, if you know that your players want to also do the same thing, you're going to have a much better time. So with all this entertainment that's out there, and the way that people's mindset is, search out people. If you have to go away from your friends and find new friends, I highly recommend you do that. Find the people that want to play the game the way you want to play it. That's what I did when I broke out and I got on Twitter, I got on Google+, and I played with pure strangers, and I've made friendships that have lasted for years because of that, because they wanted the same things that I wanted. I wasn't trying to sit there. Out for years, I was trying to beat down the door of some of my buddies' minds and say, hey, let's play this, when they didn't want to do that. They wanted to be entertained, but they didn't want to be involved in it as deeply as maybe as I did. But because they're my buddies, I wanted to keep on going at it. So don't try to get outside that box. You may be uncomfortable. It may be strange to meet new players, but break out of your group and find people who want to play the games that you want to play. It's if you've, how much time do we have, to play, and, in a given week, a month, a year, and try to maximize that with the people that actually want to play what you want to play. That's what I would tell you to do. Really, other than that, I'm not going to, there's many, many more tips that I have. Use index cards. Don't fill up the area in front of you with a bunch of papers. Use index cards. You can stack them up. They get out of the way quick. You don't need a whole bunch of dice and stuff at the table. Use ones that you're comfortable with. If you want to roll out in front of your players, do that. If you don't. And if you want to flub dice, there's tons of videos about people saying don't flub dice. It matters in what context you're doing that. You've bought a bunch of books. This is your time. You want to create a story, and more than anything, hopefully you're trying to create some sort of story that'll last years, that you could tell people, hey, you're trying to create memories. And if memories means that you, as running a game, you need to flub some dice to have a better experience, I don't have any problem with it. If you're playing a hardcore game where people know that you're rolling out in front of them and the dice fall as they will, and they're going to kill you, then let that be. But if you've worked on a big campaign and setting, and these characters are really deep and involved, you don't have to kill your players. You don't have to sit there and say, oh, no, if they do something really dumb and stupid and you've warned them and blah, 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 murder them. Get rid of them. Teach them a lesson. But if you're just playing to have fun and get people involved in a game, flub rolls. It's not going to kill you. You'll be able to sleep at night. And hopefully you'll be able to sleep because you'll realize that they've continued on with the adventure. They've created a lot of cool memories. You can be like, hey, remember when we did that, or we did that. And that happened because you created story. They created story with what their actions were. And more than likely, if you sit there and say, oh, well, we died. Okay, that's, you're not going to remember that. The only thing you might remember is that we tried to play that game and we died a couple times and we moved on to something else. So, that's some of my tips there for you. Again, no map, you're in control. You've got this down pat. And just, it's going to take time. Just keep trying. Be confident. Don't worry about awkwardness with people if an awkward moment comes up. Put in as much of the game as you want. Prepare. The more you prepare, and I know I said that before, you don't have to, but I will say once you do have a very deep adventure that's very layered, lots of things going on with it, if it is complex, you need to prepare complex. You need to really, really hit it hard and really get it under, get it under your belt exactly what's going on in that adventure. The more you prepare for a complex adventure, the better off you'll be. So really, that's it. I hope this has been beneficial for you. And if you like my videos, please subscribe. It lets me know that there's people out there that are watching my videos. Makes me want to make more. And I love the feedback. Anybody that's got any feedback, anything, as you can see on some of my previous videos, I love to respond as much as I can. And I love hearing from people that are watching my videos. So if you're a subscriber, thanks a lot. Feel free to share these videos, whatever you want to do. You know that whole rigmarole people do with YouTube videos. I'm the same way. Just do whatever you want to do. But hopefully this has been informative for you. And I look forward to the next video, and I hope you do too. Thanks.